Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Thursday morning's broadcast. I am Chloe Tetro. I'm the health coach here with Ready Care. And for this morning, we're going to have a quick look at demystifying journaling. So we've all heard of journaling from Eminem to Oprah and everybody in between and its benefits. And sometimes there's quite a set idea about what it is that journaling is. So for today, we're just going to have a quick look at the neuroscience of journaling and brain regions and how those can benefit in different types of journaling that one can do. And we'll finish off with a few prompts at the end, just to get you started on the old journaling journey. So what is journaling? Journaling would be a form of expressive writing, and it's the act of writing down thoughts, feelings, experiences, and can be done in various ways, in handwriting, in physical notebook, or a digital journal. And oftentimes the literature out there will tend to lean more towards the physical act of writing because it includes your motor skills into it, which actually can help with focus, presence, and really kind of sinking into the journaling aspect. So it's a simple and accessible tool. It's so simple. You just need either your phone, your laptop, or preferably a piece of pen and paper. And it can help you to process emotions and gain insight into the thoughts and behaviors. So when we think about the likes of mindfulness, for example, which lots of benefits have been recorded, and we're all, certainly aware of the benefits of the meditation process. So a large part of the meditation process, whether you sit in lotus pose or whether you're in walking meditation, is actually in the act of detaching from your thoughts and feelings and being able to observe them. So actually journaling is a meditative process because it stops the enmeshment with your firsthand experience of something. So I'll give you an example so it doesn't sound too up in the air somewhere. If you're very angry about something, you can replay the situation over and over, and your anger is getting larger and larger, and you're just seeing it through that lens of anger. Whereas if you take a moment to actually put pen to paper, it's going to give you a linear process, start, middle, and end. What has happened? Why did I react in this way? And all of a sudden, you're able to separate yourself somewhat from the primary experience to be able to actually observe it. And from that observation space, you can make better decisions. There's greater emotional regulation, there's greater insight into it. So it's been found to have a really, really positive impact on the brain and emotions. It reduces stress, it reduces anxiety, it activates the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that's responsible for executive function, decision making, emotional regulation. It's also involved in the generation and regulation of emotions, which is a massive part of your emotional processing. It also engages the amygdala. So the amygdala is responsible for emotional processing and memory. It plays a critical role in the formation and the recall of emotional memories. So if we are writing thoughts, emotions, it's easier then to process and express these emotions, which leads to better emotional regulation, as you might imagine. So what parts are involved and how does it work? The neuroscience. If at any point as well you guys want to tap in, just write a few comments along the way, please feel free to do so. It'd be great to hear from you. So with regards to journaling, it's been found to activate several brain regions that the emotional aspect would be the greatest studied one aspect of it. So one of the regions is the prefrontal cortex, which we've mentioned, and studies have shown that journaling can enhance the activity to that area, which will improve emotional regulation and decision making. Decision making is a huge other part that your prefrontal cortex would be responsible for. So if we think of the brain as a whole, a lot of our decision making is quite automatic. So I would think it's about 95% of our decision making is automatic. And activating the prefrontal cortex requires a little bit more mental energy, mental processes. It's kind of the act of stepping back and going, okay, let's have a look at the big picture here. What's happening? This, that, and the other. And there's a lot more broader scope. It's been called the CEO of the brain because it really takes a look at the entire picture and formulates good decision making based on that. So that's one of the areas which we'll cover a little bit in greater detail in a second. It's one of the areas that can actually improve significantly through the act of journaling. So if you're putting pen to paper, you're much better able to formulate something that will benefit you in the long run, not just now, and really to sit into that decision fully present and be able to tease it out a little bit. So the amygdala that we mentioned as well is the brain region involved in emotional processing and memory, and it's been found to be activated during journaling. So the amygdala usually gets a somewhat bad rep as the fear center. And with the brain, it's easy to say this part does this part does that, but actually it's a lot more nuanced than that. And the amygdala does respond when there's a fear trigger, let's say. But what it does actually is the amygdala is basically storing information to try to protect you from perceived dangers. And because we're very complex and multifaceted beings, sometimes danger isn't as cut and dry as somebody's coming at you with a knife. Sometimes danger is emotional pain, or it's things that have happened in our history that we're trying to avoid again because they were painful, because we felt fear, we felt shame, we felt disappointment. All of that kind of criteria of emotions gets stored there. So the amygdala is responsible for the formation and the recall of emotional memories. And studies have shown that journaling about the emotional experiences can help the individuals to process and cope with difficult emotions, again, through that non-enmeshment, through that being able to observe something. It can help to integrate emotional experiences, leading to improved emotional regulation and well-being. So if we think of it in terms of something has fired off this threat response, this fear response, and we're able to observe it, we're able to detach some of the associations it's making. Sometimes the brain is, how would I put it? It works very hard. It works definitely very hard, but sometimes the messaging can get a little bit crossed where just because a situation is similar to something that upset you, it starts to really, really rattle you. But in actual fact, the situation that's rattled you is also exceedingly dissimilar. So sometimes taking that moment to journal and process it can go, okay, I have to sit a test at work and I have terrible memories of tests from my school days and I'm really rattled about it. It's bringing up all this stress, all this anxiety. So I can see that something has been crossed here where there's an association with something that previously upset me in the present day that is kind of similar, but actually journaling on it, I know my job. I know the parameters of the test. I've studied for it. I'm an adult with greater coping skills than I might have had. Okay, so things are a little bit gentler than the original threat response. And it's a very good way to bring yourself down a little bit. So journaling is also found to activate the default mode network of the brain, so the DMN. It's a network that is involved in self-referential thinking and introspection. So when we reflect on something, when we process something, and I've lost the word, so I'm just going to say reflect again. Reflect with panache. The DMN includes the medial prefrontal cortex. And it's been shown to, so the Journaling Act has been shown to enhance the activity, which will lead to greater self-awareness and introspection. So let's have a wee look now at journaling and neuroscience and the brain regions attached with it and different ways that we can bring it in. So journaling is quite a large topic. And I think where some people get a little bit bogged down is they think there's a right way to do it, a wrong way to do it, or They're not into the kind of Dear Diary approach to things, which is absolutely fine. Basically, there is no wrong way of doing this. But what I'll do is I'll just flick through a few different ways that you can take it up and what that'll actually do for the brain. So gratitude journaling is a really big one. And that activates the prefrontal cortex. It involves writing about things that one is, you've guessed it, grateful for. And it's been found to lead to improved emotional regulation and well-being by focusing on positive experiences. Individuals can shift their attention away from negative experiences and improve the mood and overall well-being. And that's not an exercise whereby we pretend that nothing bad happens at all. It's not kind of sticking your fingers in your ears and going la la la, only good things. Nothing like that. It's just that as a physical and biophysical and psychological entity, we have a tendency to overemphasize negative experiences, exactly because of what I'd mentioned a while ago, that our brain is trying to protect us from them. So it's really, really hyper aware. But sometimes we can filter a lot of our experiences through that kind of threat way of looking at things. So gratitude journaling can just bring us a little bit down from that and actually say, these are all the amazing things I have in my life, because oftentimes we can take a lot of things for granted unless we really bring our attention to it. Gratitude really also helps with endorphins, serotonin. So really being in the moment of things, and those would be responsible for making us feel good, make us feel happy. And if it just takes a little while at the end of the day just to jot down a few things that we actually are quite proud of, quite happy of, that we're very grateful for, and we know we're going to get this lovely chemical payoff for it, why not? There's also reflective journaling, which would involve writing one's thoughts and feelings regarding a particular event or a particular experience. That will activate the amygdala, as we've mentioned. It'll also help to reflect on difficult emotions and process and integrate those emotions. But as well as that, it'll activate the prefrontal cortex. So if you're reflecting on a very specific scenario, you're able to detach, look at the bigger picture, by engaging that CEO of the brain, and actually be able to make greater decisions based on outcome, facts, and really getting a proper picture of it. And then another little one is stream of consciousness, which would be journaling and the default mode network. So that would involve writing continuously without any particular structure or goal. And that can sound very messy, but actually there's a real purpose to it. This approach has been found to actually activate that default mode network. So remember a while ago we were talking about how that is what's involved in self-referential reflection, introspection. So you're kind of opening the floodgates really to be able to access that point. It helps with massive self-awareness. Allowing your thoughts to go freely, you can gain greater insight into your subconscious beliefs and emotions, which will help with growth and development. And oftentimes, there has to be a little bit of freedom to allow those things to come through. Sometimes we can be quite stuck in our ways of thinking and not really realizing that we are stuck in that way of thinking. If you are looking to measure progress, if you decide to start this with a very particular goal in mind, your goal could be, I want to lessen my amount of, or decrease, sorry, I want to decrease my amount of anxiety and stress. Now that I've started this new role, I can see I'm quite overwhelmed with things. So I'm going to start journaling with the express intention to decrease stress and anxiety. So how would you go about measuring that? Firstly, I would say have a practice, even if it's having your journal next to your bed or having your journal in your handbag or anything like that, or on your desk, where you allow yourself a portion of time in the day just to, even if it's 2 minutes. I wouldn't say do anything that's time specific, because actually that can become more of a hindrance than the opposite of hindrance. Than a tool. So yeah, not having something that's time constrained. And if you are looking to measure, Give yourself markers at the beginning of things like mood, emotional regulation, and self-awareness. So mood, what is your mood that day? Scale of 5. Emotional regulation, scale of 5, and self-awareness, which is quite a tricky one to reflect on, really. But it's a good way of seeing day by day, week by week, how are you getting on with things? Is there an improvement? It will help to keep you focused, keep you on that kind of measuring your progress, and it'll help to notice any small changes in your overall well-being, improvement, mood, energy levels even, which can help keep you on track and actually really properly formulate it into a habit when you can see there's a payoff with it. So it's always a good idea to track things, even in whatever way makes sense for you. And lastly, a few little prompts for the old journaling. If you're not too sure where to start with things, and it's very, very normal, I'll give you about 6 or 7 of them. So if you want to even look back on this video and pause it to kind of jot it down, but I'll go through them quite. I won't rush like a mad thing. You can tell I've had a few coffees this morning. So reflecting on a time when you felt deeply proud of yourself and why. Writing about the achievements and accomplishments that led to those feelings and how you can build on those successes. Again, we're leveraging here the positive spec and really sitting outside of the usual tendency to go into beating ourselves up, viewing things through a negative lens. So really give yourself that time and space to see a time that you felt proud of yourself and why. And what you're doing there is you're activating all those parts of your brain region, which are helping with mood, anti-anxiety, anti-stress, but you're also giving yourself evidence. This is quite crucial. You're giving yourself evidence of times that you accomplished something. So if you can build on that each time, you then have a catalogue of evidence, which helps your brain to really take it in as truth, as fact, of times that you were very capable, you were very proud of yourself. Now, you can change out the word proud or capable to whatever it is that your goal is. You can say compassionate. You know, you're trying to work on your ability to be more compassionate. Journaling a few times a week on these are times today where I exercised compassion. These are times in the last 2 years that I exercise compassion. It builds up that bank of evidence, which really helps your brain to take on that self-messaging, and it'll become easier for you to put it outwards then. Writing about something that is causing you stress or anxiety and how you plan to manage those feelings will help you to reflect on coping strategies you can use to reduce your stress levels and increase your overall well-being. Again, we're activating the parts of the brain that are able to look at the bigger picture. You're bringing down some of the associations that your amygdala is firing at you. And it's a really good way to give yourself time to take stock of a particular problem instead of wasting a lot of mental energy ruminating on something. So number 3, reflect on a person who's had a significant impact on your life and why. Write about the positive qualities and experiences you associate with that person and how they've influenced your life. So this is a very good way for social bonding, social connection, but also to help to define what is important and valuable to you as traits to aspire towards. And you'll be very, very surprised that when you do that, you start to actually subconsciously enact and adopt some of those behaviors for yourself. A very popular one, write about your personal goals and the steps you are taking to achieve it. Reflecting on the progress you've made so far and any obstacles you feel might get in the way. And it's very good to actually pop that into your actual question is, what are the obstacles? What are the challenges? What are the things I can anticipate coming ahead? And give yourself an option so that when you actually when you anticipate those and don't just land at an obstacle. So it gives you a way to sidestep obstacles that you've already planned for, you've already prepared for. And it takes away a lot of that kind of curveball of being landed with a situation while you're already a little bit stressed, while you're already a little bit overwhelmed. So it's a really, really good way to problem what would I call it? Problem track, problem to really have a good picture about where you're at, what you want, and any obstacles and challenges that can come up. So again, the gratitude piece, things you've learned recently and how it's impacted your life. It's a really good way of assimilating new knowledge. Now, some of you might do this with work-related activities, but actually, or if you're studying, or even if you're taking a class, or just in your life in general. Writing about new things you've learned and how it has impacted you actually helps to ingrain that new learning, because you're tying it to your internal association. So it's not just this external abstract learning, but something that you can actually fully integrate. So I think that's probably enough now, because I could keep on with different prompts all day, but really for getting started, those are some of the building blocks with it. There's massive benefits, and you will find that it's tricky when you're starting a new habit, especially if you're kind of in the headspace of, is there a right way to do it? Is there a wrong way to do it? But just to appease you, there is no right or wrong way of doing this. Anything that allows you for self-reflection, allows you for greater decision making, allows you for emotional regulation, is going to be a hugely beneficial tool. And if you can look to incorporate it in any way during the week as a little habit, I promise you will see some really good benefits along the way. So that is me for Demystifying Journaling. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you have any wee comments, anything like that you want to pop in, I'll give another 15 seconds, because 15 seconds of quiet airtime can be a lot. But thank you so much again, and we'll be back with you next week. In the meantime, have fun, throw down a few things on paper, and we'll be seeing you next time. Bye now.